So I just want to point out a few things about these helpful links, which are right here. And so when you click it, you get all these different links. And here's Google's Web Fundamentals, and that presents just the basics of creating websites according to Google. So it's good to take a look at. And then down here, Can I Use is really an important website. And Can I Use will allow you to find out what is supported by different browsers. So for instance, if I wanted to use Flexbox, which is a new way of doing layouts, I could type in flexible, and here's flexible box layout model. And it shows me, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and then which versions do not support it, which ones have marginal support, and which ones have full green light support. And so you can see if you use Flexbox to do your layouts, well, you're not going to be working on this one, but on everything else that's current, you're working. But what's the install base on all this? If you hover, it gives you statistics like here you still have 2% that's using that in the world. You have 4% that's using that. And if you look right here, you have globally, you have with prefixes, you could have 87.46% of people will be able to use that. And we'll learn what prefixes are in your CSS code. And without prefixes, you'd have 2/3 of users will be able to see your website and have it render correctly in their browser. The way the web works is you get sent code over the internet, and then your browser takes that code and interprets it or renders it to display the web page. And so browsers have to be built to understand the code that gets sent to them. Older browsers do not understand the new code. Like if I have IE8 and I send it something with Flexbox, IE8 will be like, I don't know what Flexbox is. And so your page is going to look junky when you look at it on IE8. But IE10, okay, I kind of know how to use this. IE11, no problem, and your page will render correctly. So how many people that you already knew that? Let me see your hands if you already knew that. Okay, so some people learned some new information on that. That's good. So Flexbox is a really Can I Use is a really useful website to come in and just find out, hey, can I use this? And if so, what percentage of people understand it? I don't know what else we might look at, but great resource to know about. So then MDN is also for web docs. That is really sort of been the standard for the place you go look. Like, oh, I need to look up some code, right? I need to know HTML5. And in HTML5, I need to know, different stuff, or let me bring up this other one here, HTML right here, HTML, and I need to know how the anchor tag works, and I need to read about that. So MDN, Mozilla Developer Network, is really where you'd want to look for that. And Mozilla is Firefox, right? So Mozilla makes Firefox browser. Mozilla originally did, Netscape Navigator, is that right? And so I think that's kind of where they originated. So often when I'm looking for something, if I don't know, I'll type in MDN, Mozilla Developer Network, and then I might type in anchor attributes, and then, here, HTML element, right? And it brought me to the anchor element, and I'd read about the attributes that I could use with that tag. And so that Google search is a search that if you're, when I'm doing web stuff, I'm doing that often, MDN something something, right? And I'm just looking up what does Mozilla Developer Network say about it. Now there is a new sort of website, and this is known as the WebDoc standards location for HTML5 and CSS3. It's called webplatform.org, and you can watch a little video about it, but this is supposed to be even better eventually. I found that sometimes it's incomplete. Anybody use this? Yeah, so, I found that it's still kind of a growing thing, but this is supposed to be like the central location, not affiliated with any company, but it's just the people who are wanting to make the web better. Anyhow, you can check it out. So as we go through and learn layout, we're going to learn CSS layout. And this tutorial right here is really fantastic for learning layout to me. And so I put that down as great, right? Because it talks about the display property, which is something we're going to hit in the first couple of things with Shea House thing. and you know, it just talks about different stuff. So this is really fantastic for learning about layout. We'll probably come back to that. This is also great. I don't know why I didn't write great here. Treehouse CSS Tricks, Complete Guide to Flexbox. That needs a great next to it. And this one, so Flexbox is, to me, with 86% user base, I kind of have the attitude of, well, I don't really want to deal with that 14% who has an old version of Internet Explorer. To hell with them. They probably don't know how to click purchase or don't have money anyhow, wherever they're living in their trailer in Arkansas, right? So for me, like building flexible layouts, I'm going to use Flexbox, and that's how I'm going to do it. And this right here is the best resource for using Flexbox that I know of. And so you just kind of go through it and meditate upon this and figure out how these different things work, and then play around with them. And that could this is the best resource I found for Flexbox. So that's great. There's other stuff in here, developing mobile-friendly sites. This is according to Google, so you can take a look at that. And then there's something in here about, here's Google's information on microdata and rich snippets, which we talked about recently. And so you could take a look at that one. And then we have some CSS stuff. And so under CSS, I put fonts because that's kind of falls in with CSS. I'm saying what font I want to use. But Google Fonts is a great place for giving some style to your website. You need to use them cautiously because it could have a negative impact upon performance. And so you just want to make sure that you don't. There's tips and tricks for using fonts well. And we'll learn about, hopefully we'll be able to watch the Udacity. I remembered what I wanted to say in a previous video. Hopefully we'll be able to watch the Udacity video. And they have one in here on performance. And in performance they talk about just how you need to tread carefully when using this. Because basically I could download, let me just show you real quickly. Like I want this, so it's sorted by popularity. This is popular. If I have some sort of a company idea or something I want to do, like underground weapons, your first stop for firepower, right? And I go, yeah, that's looking good. And I could say add it to a collection, I think. I don't know, I haven't done this in a while. Let's see what happens. And, well, it's in my collection. What do I do now? Use this style. I think maybe this arrow. Okay, so now we could start to see different looks on that. And, I could say which part I want to download. And so I could download, I want to be able to use the light one, I want to use the bold one, and I want to use normal. But if I download all these, and that's a whole, and you can see this over here, this page load. So as I start to click more of these, see my little arrow going up over there on the speedometer, right? Did you see that? Impact on page load time. And so you just want to be judicious and careful and not choose everything because you want to be able to have it in your design palette, but choose what is going to work for you. So that's that's that. And then when you're writing your code, like I said, we're going to in CSS there's some prefixes that you'll put in, which will take you. When we looked at can I use, when we looked at can I use, we saw with Flexbox. Let me just type that in. We saw with Flexbox without unprefixed only 66%, but prefixed 87%. And so auto prefixer is something that will automatically figure out which browsers need to have, how do I adjust my CSS so that it works with most browsers, and so it's prefixed. And it references a database of current standards, so you don't have to go out and check. You don't have to come over here and say, well, hell, I need to put a prefix for this, right? And and how do I do that? You just run your code through auto prefixer, and that's something that is a package which you can install into Sublime. Took a moment for that to come up, and you install that in Sublime. And then you just say auto prefix it when you're done writing your code, and it goes through and it adds it all in, which is great. I don't know how these other prefixers, automatic prefixers, work. I listed one other one that somebody in a training, Chris from Big Nerd Ranch, I think told me about. We were looking at auto prefixers. Chris here told me about this one. I've never used it. I don't know if it's as good. So those are great. CSS selectors, code validation, we looked at a little bit last week, and making sure you validate your code, but there are the links to validate, doing code validation. There's some interesting stuff about web images. This is great, Stripe for payments. So if you want to accept credit cards on a website, you can come in here and let me just see, features, pricing. I think under pricing, no, that's not where that's not where I'm looking. Features. Okay, so you can see curl, Ruby, Python, PHP, Java, Node, Go. And so those are what they're saying. These are the server-side languages we're going to support. And so the fact that Go is showing up here to me is a really good sign. Node's a good sign. These are old school. This is newer. That's old school. I don't know what the heck that is. That's kind of bad. I should know that. Anybody know curl? Yeah. So that was probably just a boo-boo on my video. I don't care. I do care, but I'm human. I don't know everything. And then web components is that thing we just looked at, and Go programming, I have some links. And then here's something I saw for a place you could get trainings. I should add lynda.com to that. Lynda.com. Web.lynda.com. Make it a link, man. There we go. Oh, undo. I guess I got to have one there. And then this podcast we talked about last week, Web Ahead, and command line crash course. So those are just some of the resources on that link. Here, those are some of the resources which are good to know about, and which I think you'll find very useful.